Hey, this is Brian. We're going to be doing a little experiment today. I'm recording outside my backyard. There's lots of little birds out there, traffic driving by, fire engine just went by. So let's give this a shot and see if this works. Um, so this is the setup that we used before, and we're just going to use the same one again. And if you remember last time, we duplicated this cube um, and made a repeat over here and one over here. And I'm just going to kind of quick go over that to refresh. So um, let's erase those. Um, Let me back up again just to kind of reiterate what's going on in this scene is that this is where the viewer is standing. This is the picture plane in the top view. And this is the line. I forget what DL stands for. It's a line of vision, but a direct line. I'm not sure what they're using here. Um, and then these two lines that go off at a 90-degree angle, where they hit the picture plane, those become the vanishing points. And these lines here, if I take this line, this one will be X over here, and this little dotted line means we're just rotating it up. You don't have to rotate it. You could just measure this and then repeat it over here. So this distance is X, and that becomes a measuring point for one side. And then we do the same. Let's call that Y. We rotate up Y, and this distance from vanishing point to measuring point is the same length as Y, and that's our other measuring point. And then what those enable us to do, once we have those measuring points, if we take the height of the box and we repeat that over here, so we'll call this Z, and this is Z. Those are equal measurements. And then we draw a line to the measuring points. That tells us this point right here where we can start to create the rest of our box. So it's giving us the depth that's very needed for this side, and then we'll do the same on the other side real quick here. So this same height measurement is repeated over here. So this is also Z. And then we drew a line over to that measuring point, and where it crossed over right there, crossed over this line going to the right vanishing point. Then we know the depth of the box going in this direction. And so now we can draw this line up, and we've already got the height here, so we can just go off to this measuring point. Vanishing point, that vanishing point, and then once we've got these two front edges, we can actually find the intersection of the back, draw a line up, and draw these across, and we got our whole cube. So that's how we got there. So let me just turn that off. And then what we did is we multiplied these boxes by, just again, this is a refresher. Let me make a new layer. And I've got this on multiply so that it acts more like a whiteboard marker as opposed to opaque. So what we did, this is just going to be super quick here. Actually, I'm not even going to do this accurately. We found the diagonals on this side of the box once we had it. And then we drew a line over to our right vanishing point. And then we drew a new line that snapped through that center of the back of the box, which is this line I'm highlighting right here. And that gave us, this should be, whatever this is, we'll call this A now. This should be A in perspective. And so that gave us the spacing of our boxes. And then we did that again by going one more time. Let's go in red now. From this top corner through the center of that line, and then back up. And that gives us another A measurement. So all those should be equal in perspective. They're not equal in actual distance because they're getting smaller and smaller. And then we created a box from that second iteration so that the spacing in between was the same size as an actual cube. So anyway, we did this last week. You can use this as an underlay. I mean, the one that you did previously as an underlay. We did the same thing on this side. So quick double um, diagonals, find the center, finds the center of this side, do a long diagonal through there, up, new long diagonal through there, up, and then this second pair we turn into our other box. And then I put the, where's it, Cone of Vision here. I'm going to move this up to the top because this is kind of important. Let's make this a little more obvious. Okay, so this red circle is our Cone of Vision. And let's see, where's my notes? I think on this layer. And again, I'm just kind of highlighting it here. So that means that everything that passes outside of this is going to start to get a little bit distorted. So we want to try to keep our composition within this frame. So I'm going to do two things. One, I'm going to add one more box over here by doing one more diagonal and one more diagonal through that center line. And see how this little tiny box now is still within the Cone of Vision, so that's going to be okay. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes. And then I'm going to do one more thing. I'm actually going to double this box up here. And I'm just giving you a little preview. I'll do this a little cleaner in a second. I'm going to double this box, so we'll have a total of 5 boxes. But I'm going to make this 5th box here optional. It's a extra credit box. So really, if you're kind of just struggling along, barely following what's going on, then just do these 4, and they should be spaced out enough that the shadows aren't going to be a problem. And then we'll add this. I'll do that last. So like I said, it can be extra credit because the shadow on this one's a little trickier. Not too hard, but it's just a little bit trickier. So let's get started. So I am going to turn the Cone of Vision down just a tad. And I'm also going to turn this this layer down because I've already got some of this worked out from last time below. So we're going to use some of that that we already did. And so first step, let's make another box over to the right. Cone of Vision, let's see. I've got to make a really skinny. So we're going to add the extra box over here, and I think I got my assisted on. So first step is just to draw that diagonal through the center blue line where this blue and the red connect, and then draw up. That's going to be the spacing. And I'm going to do it one more time, and that just is long enough to help me, that blue line, but it's about right there. I draw a line up, and so you can see that I'm still in the Cone of Vision, but now I got to complete the box, and so I got to go from this, I'm going to make this a little bit darker. Let's block out this side here. So this is the one side of the box, and we're going to turn these into primitive shapes. And when I say primitive shapes, I'm talking about cube, cone, cylinder, and sphere. And we've done the cone, we've got the cube. Oops, that's going the wrong one. So I got to show you the cone and the sphere today. All right, so I've just transferred the bottom over to this back line because that's the back of the existing boxes. And this is going to kind of line up right on that one. This one's going to go up, across, and I'm deleting them if they're not quite on center, just because I want this to be relatively accurate. And before I go on, I think I'm going to turn this one in the back into, or maybe I'll just leave that as the cube because it's kind of getting stretched out already. I can kind of see it's looking a little weird. So I've got to do a little bit of strategy and figure out what's going to be what. Because I have all this space up here, I can stack up the boxes. That's what I'm going to do in the end to get that 5th box, but I can't have that box sitting on the sphere or on the cone because they wouldn't technically balance, and it makes the shadows really complicated. So I'm just thinking that maybe, I think we did this before, but I think this front one's going to be a cylinder again, just to make it easy. So let's make a new layer here. So I'm just going to, size for cylinder. Let's see, so then this will be, maybe I'll make this one the cone. And this one, the sphere. No, actually, well, okay. And this will be cube. And then up here, we'll do another sphere. So this will be a sphere on top of that one. All right, so let's go with the ones first that we haven't done yet. So we've already done a cylinder. We've done a cube. So let's go first over to the cone, because that one's kind of easy. So I'm going to turn this purple box into the cone, and turn on my assisted layer. Let me make sure I'm, okay, so that's there. Okay, so notes assisted. All right, so let's just darken this up a little bit just so we kind of see what we're working on. Okay, so, boop, doop, doop. And when we did the cylinder, we did the bottom and the top of the box were circles or ellipses in perspective, and then we just kind of tangent connected those two circles to create the cylinder. Now, a sphere, or sorry, a cone is similar in that we got to make the bottom of this into a circle in perspective or an ellipse. And so I'm doing the typical divisions here, and I realized last lesson I was in the video, I was trying to divide this up using that other method, and I realized the problem was I wasn't drawing enough lines. I divided into 3 spaces, but it's in that video of Wei that was linked, he actually divides it up into, there's 3, you draw 3 lines, but that makes 4 total spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4. But I'm just going to go back to my method, which is dividing this into 3. So I'm just kind of visually marking out thirds. And the first one I'm going to draw up to the diagonal. And then I'm going to just draw this around. I think the quickest way is just to kind of draw a box. When you hit the diagonals, just change direction. And so those are the points we want to hit. And let's do this in a new layer. And I'll do it in red. Okay, so we know we got to hit these 4 points where the circle is tangenting the box. So there's 4 points, and then these 4 points where this 1/3 rule hits those diagonals. So I just basically, let's first do kind of like I said, we'll just do these in straight-ish lines, because we know it's got to be, the arc's got to be outside those straight lines. And then let's start adding those arcs. And like I said, this first one is a very short but squishy arc. This one's very long and narrow. This one's also long and narrow. Long and narrow. So there's kind of 3 in a row. And then this one's a short, wide. And this one's long and narrow, long and long. And remember when I showed you in the geometry way of doing it, that these are kind of 2 arcs. There's one that's big and long and shallow, and in this case the points, the radius center is probably somewhere way down here. And then there's the little short arcs that are something like this. So let's go back now to, so I've got this all kind of mapped out, and go back to this. Do a new layer. So I'm going to do this again and snap it and see how close I was. And I'm going to do a different color just so. So I think I'm drawing underneath this, so I'll have to move this layer up in a second. So I'm just carefully tracing. It's okay, I'm a little wobbly. I hold and let it snap. And again, you can't really see this, but let's just leave that, and I'll move this on top of, or actually just turn off my other layer. Check this. Actually, it looks pretty good, so I'm just going to leave it. So that blue is my ellipse. Now, here's an interesting thing. Is I mentioned this before, that the longest point of this ellipse should go straight across. But what's happening here is the box is getting stretched out, so it's getting a little bit of an angle to it. So that rule of an ellipse on a flat plane, and the minor axis is going straight up and down, and the major axis is going straight across. That is technically true, but when the boxes start getting distorted like this, they start rolling over a little bit. So you actually have the option. You could straighten this out if you wanted to, or you could leave it as is, because technically this is correct, but it looks a little weird. So let's erase this go. Let's just leave it as is though. And we're going to make this cone as tall as the cube is. So that means I need to find the center of this upper part. So I'm drawing two diagonals to find the center of the upper part of the box. And then I should be able to, oops, I need my assisted layers. Should be able to just draw a line straight up to that center. And then let's do this again in another color. And then from this new peak, just come down until it's tangent to the circle. Notice that it's not, the shorter this is, the more this will connect behind. So this doesn't have to be this tall. Let's make another cone in here that's this tall. I'm just picking an arbitrary height. Now if I draw this line tangent to that circle, you'll see it actually meets up a little further back. Let's go over here. So tangent's about there. Now if it was really short, let's say this tall, those tangent lines are going to start moving really far back. And so you're actually seeing kind of way around the circle. And let's leave all three of those just for a second, because I'm going to cast a shadow from each of these. So this is the fun stuff about the cone, is that it makes it really easy. You can see a little bit of my shadow direction from before in a lighter color. So let's go with light blue just for a minute. So I was thinking about changing my shadows. I'm just going to go with the same shadow direction just to make this easy. So I'm just kind of paralleling those existing shadow lines that you can kind of see back there, whatever that degree angle is. And I'm going to just do these first two, because I'll show you what's going to happen here. So from the ground line, let's go over and we'll do green for ground. Let's do bright green though. I'd like to think of grass. And then because our shadows are going horizontal, and we just drew the angle of the sun, if I draw a line from the center, which in the top, let's move this up higher. Draw a line from the center going across till I meet this, whoops, the direction, which is right there. Beep, beep, beep. Then the shadow, all I need to do is connect some tangent lines, and actually I'm going to make this a little darker, from that point back to my base circle. And you'll see if I follow this around, it's about right there. And if I go to the other side, somewhere over there. So that would be the shadow of that first cone that I did. All right, now let's do the second cone, because this is where it gets interesting. So I'm going to erase those. Okay, so the second cone, if I look at the shadow line, and here I'm going to just make this big and fat and highlight this so you can see what I'm talking about. Here's the light direction going down, and here's the base direction, and they meet inside the cone. And so what that means is there's no shadow. The cone itself is covering its own shadow. So this first one, because it's really tall, casts this little tiny pointy shadow. And then the second cone over here which was shorter, is too short to cast its own shadow. And you could kind of see this angle, sorry, I'm waiting for this to snap, is a little steeper than the angle of the light. So there's no shadow. And then this third one down here, which is really shadow, would also have no shadow because it itself is covering its own shadow. So let's go back to the first one and recreate that shadow. And I'm doing all this. Let's just trace this over because I won't be able to lighten up the cube once we're all done because I did it all in the same layer. That's one problem when you have too many layers, is things get a little cluttered. So let's turn that one down. I think it's this one. And the box is maybe this one. Actually, the looks like I can keep that lower ellipse. I'll just erase this on top because we don't need that anymore. And we'll make this blue. And so again, I'm connecting from the however tall I want that cone down till I tangent the circle in the base, and then make sure I'm going to just lightly erase this back. I want a little hint of it because I might need that for my shadow, but it's not going to be visible in my drawing. So I'll just do shadow in black, and we'll do this in another layer. As I said, one more layer. Okay, so I already marked off where the green line hits the blue line was right there. And so now I just need to draw some lines, let them snap until they meet the circle. And you can see if I kind of make it too long and just kind of come up until where I tap the circle that the tangent's about right there. And then I got to go to that back side, which I lightened up but didn't get rid of because I need this, and it's about right there. And so the shadow, I'm just going to fill this in here. Whoa. Dump some color in there. And then this last little piece is going to be obscured by the cone itself. So I'm going to go back now and just erase that. Why did that get so big so fast? Okay. So that's it. Just that little tiny shadow. And then on the shading on the cone, that same tangent line is going to be kind of important because if we go back to our cone, where it tangents, if I draw a line up to the top, that's going to be where the core changes from light to dark. So this section in here, and just drawing a snap here. Just fill this in solid, and then I drew this on a separate layer so that I could turn it way down. And anyway, so we got the cone, and I said we're going to keep the front one a cylinder, and we did that last time, so just repeat the steps, and I think I have the cylinder in here. So let me refresh you on the shadow, just because that's, so basically we divided up the bottom, drew an ellipse, divided up the top, drew an ellipse, and then for the shadow, my shortcut was to, let's go on the same layer here. No. Let's do a new layer real quick just so I can. So I'm copying this lower ellipse and scooting it over so that the top of the axis of the cone, and again, I'm kind of just looking at the light rays underneath all of this. And I'm looking at that red line, and that is wrong. It's the blue lines. So I'm just kind of eyeballing this. And then drawing horizontally across till those two meet. So I've got the axis is like the flagpole. And I've drawn this triangle. And so I need to make a duplicate of this ellipse with the center over here instead. So let's do that real quick. So I got too many layers already. Okay, so I just made a new layer. I'm just going to trace this. And again, if you did this by hand, get a piece of tracing paper, trace this bottom. I don't know if you know this trick, but if you put a little graphite scribbling on the back of your page, let's edit that a little bit. Then you can draw through it and kind of make a transfer of that ellipse onto a new position. So now I'm just going to take this and scoot it over until the center line lines up with that intersection. It's about right there. And so this is a new layer. And so the last part I got to do is just draw these perfectly horizontal lines that tangent both the existing circle or ellipse and the new one. And let's see, I can't fill that in because it's not completely filled. So let's just blank out the part that will be filled. And I'm just kind of doing this part by hand. You can actually draw a little portion of an ellipse and use that snap method too, but the line itself will cover up all my wobbly lines. So let's see if this works. Okay, so that's that shadow, and I think, did I do this right? Yeah. So let's just turn this down a little opacity, and we'll turn that other one down in opacity a little bit too. Okay, and then this one also, the shadow on the actual cone, doing this on the same layer, is going to actually, the core is going to go right up the center, and let that snap. And I'm going to just draw this by hand. Oops, no, you see if you draw too slow, it actually snaps into a straight line in this case because, and you can barely see this because I've already got this layer turned down in opacity. So, and it doesn't matter here because it's all going to be filled in. So I'm kind of just blocking it out, trying to make it closed shape so that I can drag my color and drop it in there. And there, so that's the shadow of that one. There's a little more subtlety on the shading, but okay, so we got 1, 2, and so what did I say? This third one is going to be sphere. Okay, so this is a little tricky. All right, so there's a very long-handed and long-winded way to do this, but I'm going to show you the shortcut. And so the shortcut is we need the axis of this box. So let's just, in the spirit of making way too many layers, let's just add another layer. I don't even know what this one is. I'll just go up on top. Okay, this is gonna not quite fit because I can see this box is a little bit stretched out. It would have been more ideal to put it in the front, but let's just do it anyway. So again, that little green box in the end is just gonna be a box, so we're done with that one. So this last one, we gotta figure out where is the center. So first step is snapping those two diagonals there. And the top, these are gonna be really shallow, but acceptable. And then we're going to draw a line from the center of this X to the center of that X, and again, this might be one that it's better to go from the bottom up because I've got a more clear idea of where the intersection is on the bottom than I do at the top. Okay, so that's the axis of my sphere. Now there's a shortcut that is any circle is just slightly bigger than its axis. So I could draw out a bunch of ellipses in different kind of horizontal, vertical, and then map out that. But let's just do our shortcut because I don't have time. So I'm going to just draw a crappy circle here that's bigger than that ellipse. I'm going to edit shape, make it into a circle, and I'm going to make sure it fits. It can't come out of this box in any sides. So it's got to be a little bit smaller. And unfortunately, this circle thing, once I mess with it, if I go back and say, no, that's supposed to be a circle, it jumps back to my original position, which is not quite right. So let's do this one more time. So I can do this. One more time. Draw a circle. Look how wobbly that is. Okay. All right, so here now I'm going to say edit shape and hit circle. And instead of touching these little 4 points, if I just use, actually that's pretty good. I'm just going to go with that. All right, so there's the circle. Now notice it doesn't touch the edges of the box. And that's okay. It doesn't need to, because if you kind of looked at it from the top view, we're looking at this box in this direction, and so we're seeing this corner way out here, but if we're looking at this circle is smaller than the box. Okay, so now we need to do the shadow on this, and this one gets a little tricky. So let's go back for a second, and I should have done this before, but let's one more layer. Where are these boxes? I want to turn them down just a little bit. That's that. I thought it was back down here. Or box 1, I think. Huh. There it is. Okay. So it's this one. All right, so what I got to do is to find the shadow here. I got to kind of find this elliptical shadow that's straight down on the base, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So let's first, let's find the center. Like if this was a globe, what would the equator look like? And to do that, I need to find the center of this box all the way around. So I could do that just by dividing up one side. Let's get another color that we haven't used. Let's go purple again. All right, so I'm going to divide this original box, find the center. Let's turn on assisted. I'm going to go through that center and go around the box. So basically we kind of split this box right down the middle. And then in that new plane, that's not quite right. I am going to draw my new diagonals. And so that axis should go through that point, but I should also be able to get that ellipse in there, just like we did before by dividing this up. And you can see this one's pretty squished, so it's going to be a little hard, but let's get, there's about a 1. Let's change again to red. Okay, so that's about 1/3, 2/3 of this first space. So I'll go across and hit those diagonals. This one I'm going to do again. I'm going to divide this up and go across just to make sure, because it's so shallow, it's really hard to get things accurate. Okay, so that means I've got to, I need to fun color here. Turn off my assist. I got to hit this point, that point, the midpoints in all the box, and then the diagonal crossovers. So right there, there, and there. And so again, here I'm just gonna, let's do this in another layer. So I'm gonna do this in black. And actually I have a whole nother video that's kind of highlighting this process, which is probably better to watch that one because this is getting a little bit cluttered. Okay, so we snap. Let's edit that shape. Actually, again, that looks pretty good, but you can see one problem over here is this isn't touching my circle, so I think my circle is a little bit off center, but I'm going to stretch this part out and see if I can get that closer. Yeah, so technically I should move my circle over. I don't know what layer that's in. Too many layers. There it is. It's got this, yeah, I've got my axis in there too, so I'm just going to keep on going with this. All right, so that's the equator. And then if I went down to the bottom of the box, just like I drew for the cylinder, I'm going to draw basically that same. What I should have done is drawn this equator first and then map the circle so it touched the equator and a little bit bigger than the axis. That would be a better process, but let's go down quickly and make this shadow so we can be wrapped up with this. So I'm going to take the bottom of the box and turn. So let's turn some of these down in opacity. Yeah, let's turn that one off for now. Where's all this? Okay, found it. Okay, that's what I wanted. All right, so let's go back up to my, I think this is, gotta turn that on, assisted layer, come on. All right, let's zoom in. All right, so I'm gonna draw this bottom of the box. Then I already got the diagonals. I could see those diagonals, but I gotta draw the horizontal and vertical, well, that's not horizontal, vertical, the divisions. And now I've got to start with my approximately 1/3 here, draw back, cross over those diagonals there and there, and then I can draw this up, cross over, and back. And so I've got 4 points there, and then the 4 tangent points to the square. And then let's map this out. All right, so this one I'm definitely doing on a new layer because if the light were coming straight down, it would make it would pass through that equator and make a perfect ellipse. So I'm going to see if I can map this out roughly. Oh, I wanted this clean. So let's just draw the best we can, going through all those points. Wait, snap, and edit. This needs to be a little bit longer right there. Okay, so if the light were coming straight down, that would be the shadow of that, but it's coming at that angle. And in this case, so I'm just going to check the time, 3:15, okay. Um, uh, Now this shadow is going to go behind this cylinder. So just ignore the cylinder for a minute if we're going that same direction. You could choose to uh, swap all these items around if you want. But let's turn that off just so it's out of our way. I'm just going to stay consistent right now. All right, so I've got my light direction from one of those, which I turned off. Box one, I think is, yeah, there we go. Okay, so the blue lines I just turned on are the direction of light. So um, the shorthand here is that because we're going horizontal, the ellipse that I just drew is not going to get any bigger. I'm going to duplicate this. Okay, so it's not going to get any taller. It's going to scoot just horizontally across because the light is going horizontal. And then we got to match our angle. So if I take a tangent line to that outer edge of the sphere, I'm going to draw this again on a new layer because I'm going to manipulate that. So I could see these lines here. I'm just going to kind of follow one of them and try to stay parallel. And it's about there. And scoot it up a little bit. Okay, so there's the tangent to the sphere, and then running along and hitting the ground. And then let's duplicate that. And I want to move that over to the other side, tangent to the bottom of the sphere there. And so this new ellipse that I moved over, it can't be any taller. It's got to stay the same width because everything is just going across horizontally. The axis has got to stay on the center line, but if we don't make any taller, that should be true. But it's got to be wide enough to hit these two tangent lines. So I'm going to go back to that layer and just stretch it out. Oops. How do I do this? Oh, I have to do non-uniform, freeform, and stretch this out till it hits that blue shadow line on this side and that side. And then notice I didn't make it any taller. I just made it longer. And the cylinder shadow doesn't stretch because we're making the shadow of this over here. So you can see that it stays parallel. But the sphere is all the way around that. So now we've got this bigger shadow that stretches out to fill that space. So that's my shorthand. Just got a tangent on the one side of sphere, tangent line on the other side of sphere. The ellipse can't be any taller than this one we just drew. And it needs to just move over and stretch out so it tangents these new two lines. And then we've got our shadow spot. And you'll notice sometimes it will peek out just a little bit on one side. So you'll have something like this, and you might have this peek just a little bit outside on that side of it. And that's really important, so pay attention to that. In this case, I don't think, whoops, I did too far. Redo. Oh, it is. It's just popping out just a little bit. So let's fill, I'm going to do this with just blue because I'm here. And then I'm going to, and we're almost done here, turn the opacity way down. And then I'm just going to erase that piece that's under the sphere, which is this layer. So let's turn that up a little bit. And so you see right up in there, it kind of peeks out a little bit. I know there's a lot of lines going on there, but That means if I get rid of all this that's behind the sphere, and I could mask this out, but this is, yeah. And then if, where's my sphere? Where's all the rest of that? There we go, get rid of that, get rid of that. Get rid of those lines. And you can see I got just a little bit of that blue peeking out of there, and I should clean up those, the X and everything. I'll turn on all the appropriate layers so you can kind of see. But now, you know, we turned off the cube in the end, wherever that went. Box. I don't even see it anymore. I'll have to figure this out. But so you'll have a cube over here. And now I'm not even drawing. Why not? Oh, because I'm an eraser. So there'll be a cube over here. Then we got our sphere, we got our cone, or sorry, cylinder, and the cone. So you got all four primitives. And then the extra credit, I was going to do another sphere on top of this box, but I think I'm going to stop this now just because you'll see there's also another video with it's the whiteboard video with just the spheres on top of the cylinder. Well, here, I'll just explain it instead of doing it all. So we'll find the equator, drop down to the ground. In fact, we can use this same, because it's right on top, we can use that same ellipse from the bottom of the cylinder. And then if we have our light direction, which is, let's say this, we just need to move this, stay parallel, move this over, and it's got to tangent both those lines. And so it's going to extend this shadow a little bit, but it's going to kind of neck in a little bit because you've kind of got two circles that are going to be overlapping, so that you'll get a little tiny kink in there, or one transitions into the other. So it's not going to be just like a longer cylinder shadow. It'll be this kind of situation. So that's if we added one more sphere on top of this. And we'll stop right there. All right, thanks for watching.